Welcome to the 7th episode of Mol België Season 13 recaps from Reality TV Warriors. My name is Michael Harmstone, and not joining us today is the Canadian who once told us about the time that he caught a ping pong ball in his mouth while he was in Thailand, Logan Saunders. But still here is the guy who is always willing to grab a foreign pole whether he has money in his pocket or not, David Bindley.
Timing. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm glad you got the timing right. You will notice the distinct lack of Canadianism. Have you any idea where in the world Logan Saunders currently is?
I don't, do you?
Yeah, unfortunately, he had a double booking for our recording today.
That's so rude.
Yeah, he booked himself onto an animal husbandry course in the assumption that it would make his activities a bit more legitimate. But he got a bit of a shock when he turned up.
Yeah.
He has potentially, well, he's promised us that he will send us a message. We'll find out by the end of this recording whether he actually lives up to that promise.
Historians is done now, so he only has to do one recording a week, and still that's too much for it.
Oh, I know, and we were talking about this weeks ago going, right, this week we probably need to do Monday just to, make everything safe, and then at the end of the last Historians last week, he's like, yeah, I might not be able to make Monday, eh? What time are we doing? I'm travelling on the Tuesday, eh? It's like, thanks, Saunders. Should have told us this ages ago, but whatever. Have you had a good week?
I have. Things are sort of slowly getting back to normal after a whole bunch of weird shit at work, so that's good. Had our election on Saturday, and we did it Canada. Go us.
Yep.
Bad news is my ex is now an MP, so that's interesting.
Ooh, fun.
Yeah. It is very weird knowing you've seen like an MP's dick pics.
I didn't realise that Albo was one of your exes.
Not that one, thank God. How was your week?
Yeah, it was certainly interesting. There's bits of it that I didn't tell you because I think when we recorded Historians on Wednesday, I sent you the picture of Van from his last puppy training, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
Of him smiling with his rosette because he finally graduated puppy training despite his best efforts.
He's a very good boy, and he's got the thing to show for it.
He's officially a very good boy now. Despite the best efforts of the little shits who were also in puppy training with him, he did somehow graduate. What I didn't tell you is that my brother was away with work last week. Mum and Dad had already booked a holiday, which means that on all day Friday and Saturday morning, I had the pleasure of looking after Van.
Ah, that poor dog.
Yeah, when I say pleasure, I mean having existential terror that I was going to end up killing my brother's puppy.
Look, we've all been there.
Yeah, luckily he was a very good boy. He just curled up at my feet as I was working on Friday, and then he decided it would be hilarious fun at 6 o'clock on Saturday morning to start howling. So I ignored him for an hour, obviously. Thought I'll take him out for a walk, and took him out for a walk first thing, like 7:15, down along a path and that, and he gets to go on an extendable lead, so he's really happy with just kind of sniffing around everywhere. We were coming back, and it was dry out, but it was early enough that there was still dew on the grass and stuff, so he's running to the top of this grassy hill right at the end of his extendable lead, and he thought it would be a jolly wheeze to keep pull me over, slip down this hill, and pull the lead out of my hand. And then he thought it'd be hilarious to just keep running all around this slippery hill that I couldn't catch him on.
Good boy, Van.
Yeah, we had some words at about 7:30, most of which were very sweary at him.
I mean, that's what I expect from you.
Yeah, and he did actually end up drawing blood. I've got a gash on my knee because of that little bastard. And as punishment, he did go back to his crate whilst I had to run home and have a shower and change all of my clothes. And before I forget as well, happy Groundhog Day to Daniel Peake. He's not been wished it for a little while, so he's feeling a bit neglected, I think. So
yeah, we forgot all about it the last couple of weeks.
We have. It's not like us, that.
No.
So, previously the final five headed for a spot of golf, while Michelle, Pedro, and Nimrod played the game. Alexi and Sarah had their own game. That is, a Game of Goose-inspired waxing challenge. Pedro was left behind at a half-dinner and disappeared, while Sarah had the opportunity to find out how the mole sabotaged the previous challenge. At a paintball game to rescue Pedro, he faced the dilemma of bankrupting the challenge to win 5 Passfragen, and succeeded by bribing Nimrod and Sarah. It was all for naught, though, as Pedro became the 6th person sent packing. Jill asks us in voiceover who the mole is. For the 4 remaining people, the finale is on the horizon. Sarah is cheerful, driven, and charming, and the only one left who let the mole suitcase through in episode 1. Nimrod is thoughtful and analytical. As a banker, he knows how to handle lots of money. Alexi is young, charming, and the ideal son-in-law, but perhaps impetuous when every minute counts. Michelle is enthusiastic and a leader, but she can't be trusted in important moments. Only one of them is actually guilty, though.
It kind of feels like like as nice as it was to go over the suspects, it kind of feels like after we had the puppet show last year and the Western narration the year before, this kind of felt like a little bit of a letdown.
Yeah, this. I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about this in a couple of weeks' time, but there seems to be a lot less general theming this season. I know the previous two have been very high concept with their themings, but it felt more back to basics this season in terms of this sort of stuff.
Which is fine, and we still got that really cool animation a few weeks ago with the Festival of Lights. But like, I don't know if this was maybe like the most interesting way to spend a minute.
The other thing we haven't also mentioned this season is there's no episode titles,
No.
which is the first time since Vietnam there's been no episode titles.
Oh wow, that's been a while.
Yeah, because Greece had the Alpha Het Begin and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And then Germany had the variously German pun-themed ones. And Gary Lineker as well, don't forget that one, because I ended up having to explain to Saunders who Gary Lineker was. 10 was the old contestant quotes. 11 was movie quotes, I think.
And then 12 was just quotes from the episodes.
Yeah. Yeah, this season hasn't had any episode titles.
Interesting.
So it's day 15 in Banglamung, and they've been away so long that Alexei now needs to comb his hair, but it will take too long. And Michelle says she trusts them so much that they can each cut a bit of her bang, where it's getting a bit frayed. And after their haircuts, they head to Pattaya, a place known for its variety of sights and sounds. World famous for its ping pong shows, not that Alexei knows what one of those is.
I love that they couldn't even get through the B-roll for Pattaya without a shoddy salesman trying to offload a fake Rolex to them.
I mean, I said this to you before we started recording, but I love just Gilles getting so close to saying sex tourism, but being well aware he's not allowed to say the phrase sex tourism.
Yeah.
Just no other show on planet Earth could get away with flying this close to the sun with a ping pong challenge in Pattaya.
I can't decide which is more surprising, Alexei not knowing what a ping pong show is, or like Nimrod knowing what a ping pong show is.
Oh, Nimrod's seen some shit.
Mm.
There's a big difference between 25 and 24, don't forget that.
Yeah.
When you become 25, you open the knowledge of what a ping pong show is.
Is that what you're opening?
And I also love the fact that I deliberately wrote the generic episode notes that we use on the audio feed to basically allude to the fact that Saunders is into ping pong shows, and it's finally actually come true. I believe the exact phrasing is, and it's trip to a land where Logan spent 6 months, not that we're allowed to talk about it. I couldn't stop laughing at this introduction when I was watching it earlier. It's just, she looks so awkward.
Yeah, it's just this fucking show. Like, last week and this week, I think we're back to normal. Like, maybe the start of the season is probably a little bit weaker, but this challenge especially is probably the best challenge of the season. And like, it's not close. Like, we've had some really good challenges, don't get me wrong, but this is like a level above what the rest of the season's been.
Yeah, and both sides of this challenge are utterly insane.
Yeah.
Because who on earth thinks, oh, I know, we're going to send them to Thailand and make them catch 10,000 ping pong balls in an open top bus? So tonight they will be organising a ping pong show. Before that, though, the mole needs to get something from their briefcase, and each of them gets some alone time with said briefcase for the mole to be able to do that. And now the mole has what they need. 2 of them will organise the ping pong show, while the other 2 will look for an audience.
Did we ever work out what was in the case?
No. I think it certainly depends on who you're tunnelling on this week. I think it's fairly likely it was something to do with the bus. Whether that was a sign for Michelle to hold up to the tourists saying, don't move, even though I'm telling you to, like Senna did last season. Whether it's a sign for the driver to say, don't actually go at 15 kilometers an hour.
Yeah.
I think it's something to do with the bus side of the challenge, definitely.
Yeah, well, I couldn't even work out what it could have been if it was for the ping pong ball side.
Because the other thing is, Michelle and Sarah really didn't have much in the way of pocket space. So it can't have been anything big.
Yeah.
So they decide to split on gender lines, and the women will be recruiting the audience on a sightseeing bus and have to recruit as many tourists as possible. Michelle is picked to be the guide, and she has 10 tourists to entertain. Each one who stays on the bus is worth €200. She has to keep talking, as if she leaves a silence for 5 seconds, one of the tourists will get off the bus at the next stop. However, it doesn't matter what she says, as long as she says something. And Sarah is downstairs giving her instructions through an earpiece. The mole sabotage can't have been something to do with the boards, because no one else would have seen it, is what
Yeah,
I'm thinking. It's much more likely, if the mole sabotage was on that side, that it's something like Michelle being able to hold up a sign to the tourists on the steps, I think.
yeah. I don't think it was anything to do with the boards because like they were branded with the bus company. Like I think that's like actual information that's on the bus.
Yeah.
So it has to have been something like Michelle, with a sign in written in Thai saying don't get off or whatever, or even like another luggage tag that's sort of very similar but has the wrong name. But
Mm.
who knows? But like anything really that it could have been, probably didn't make enough of an impact for them to bother showing it in the episode, which is odd.
Well, I think they didn't show it because it would make it too obvious who it was.
That's a good point.
Because if it was something like the sign saying, please don't leave, stay around here and get in the photo, then it makes it blatantly obvious that it was Michelle.
I'd be kind of disappointed if it's another sign though, because then it's what 4 out of 7 that have been signs. 5 out of 7 if we count the watermelon.
Yeah, because the only thing I can think of from the ping pong ball side is maybe it was something to do with the release controller, something that made it less responsive or something like that. But I mean, let's be clear, it is not Alexi. If it's Alexi and I'm sat in that press room next week, I will be gobsmacked.
Just Alexi goes over to the suitcase and then comes back with like a giant hairdryer in his pocket, and we're supposed to just ignore it.
Yeah. The thing that I was kind of expecting from the ping pong side, if the mole was on that side, was something like heavier ping pong balls.
Yeah, like he comes back with a hairdryer in his pocket, and then you just got to pretend. Oh no, I'm just excited to see my first ping pong show.
Yeah. So Nimrod and Alexi are playing for the ping pong balls, 10,000 of them to be precise. Each ball that is caught will be worth 50 centimes for the pot, and they must be caught by the hop on hop off bus. It is up to the guys to lower the crane and make it easier to catch the balls, and to do that, they have to complete 2 ping pong themed challenges.
I think my favorite thing about catching them in the bus is they don't even let the people go downstairs while it's happening. Like they dump them on these poor people's heads.
And they only seem to realize when the crane lights up and they realize they're about to drive directly underneath said box of 10,000 balls. I'm also wondering if there's going to be something like the mole's name's written on one of the ping pong balls.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity that I'm not sure this show would pass up.
Out of curiosity, how many times have you had 10,000 ping pong balls in the vicinity of your face?
That we're legally allowed to talk about? 0.
Okay.
I'll tell you the real answer off air. So the first challenge is to maneuver a ping pong ball through an obstacle course, the first stage of which is catching the ball as it's dropped through a pipe on a hairdryer. And the second stage is to get the ball out of the airstream using their mouths.
It's probably a good thing these were the first 2 steps because they're clearly the impossible bits.
And also, I know we've not said this much this season, but are they pandering to us by having Nimrod deep throat a ping pong ball scored to Barry fucking White?
Yeah. Happy whacking day, everybody.
Usually it's me and Saunders who are pandered to, but I think that scene was entirely pandering to you.
Thank you, people.
And I'll also confirm at this point that I have not had an email off Jill yet this season, which means we've already improved on last year's record.
I do think it's hilarious that people on the Discord last week were like, "Ooh, I can't wait to see, how they're making the balls float next week," and then it turns out it's just a hairdryer.
It's the most obvious way to make them float that you can actually show on family television. The third stage of this challenge is to shoot a ball using your mouth at a target and then catch it again to release the drone.
How would you have done at any of this?
Oh, I would have been absolutely terrible at this. I have 0 hand-eye coordination. I would have had to be on the tourism side because there would have been no chance that I would have got that ball through the obstacle course.
And then they would have just, got off because they can't stand you. Um,
Yeah, I'd be safe.
I would have gotten the trick to catching the balls in your mouth.
Are we just going to leave that hanging there?
That did not come out the right way. But I think Nimrod was screwed with that basically as soon as he tried getting up, as soon as he tried to get underneath the ball, because then you disrupt the airflow and it just drops. Like, you really do have to come at it from on top.
None of these clips are going on your soundboard, by the way, just to be clear.
Oh, thank God. Yeah, like, I think as much as it feels like, doing basically 6 different trick shots all in a row, I think there are tricks to, like, each of them that make them a little bit more manageable. There's a learning curve to the hairdryer. There's definitely a technique to catching the ping pong ball in your mouth. We saw Alexi sort of work out how to do, rebound it off the sign. And then basically the rest of it they got through in one shot, really. So, like, I think as hard as it seemed, it was doable. You just needed time to, like, practice the hard bits, and because they were at the front of the challenge, that was a lot easier to do than if you basically had to get to the end, fail, and then go through the whole course again. Try again.
Yeah, I think this whole episode was very much tilted towards Jesus Christ, you've got no money, we need to give you things.
Yeah, like the bus challenge is, I think it's only like the second challenge I can ever think of where they're guaranteed to win something.
Yeah.
Because like they can't lose all of those tourists at the start of the challenge.
No, unless Michelle stops talking too much.
Yeah.
And I think if Michelle is the mole, she would have been significantly more aggressive if they'd been significantly better at the previous challenges. Because there's no way in hell that a mole would willingly go, oh, I'm going to get to 4 seconds of not speaking and then start speaking again.
Yeah.
Unless they were sort of being nice this episode.
Hmm.
So Michelle can also be asked questions by the tourists. They want to learn something too, and if she answers a question wrong, then 3 tourists will leave at the next stop. Sarah can look downstairs at the boards to find out what the correct answer is, but only for 2 minutes. And the first question is what the current year is on the Buddhist calendar. Sarah spots that it is 543 years ahead of the Gregorian calendar, and Michelle does the maths wrong, losing them 3 of the tourists.
We kind of skipped over it, but like I know Michelle sort of has to fill time, but genuinely, like the bit where she's scared of being decapitated by the power lines was just insane.
It's so good. Because the thing is, if you've ever been to Southeast Asia, you'll feel Michelle's pain there.
Yeah.
Because I remember, I know I've told this story on the podcast before, but when me and my brother first went to Ho Chi Minh City, it was startling how low some of those power lines are.
Hmm.
Because I know I'm a tall person. My brother's 6'2", and you walk into these power lines, you can hear them crackling overhead.
Yeah.
And they're easily a good 6 inches thick, these power lines. It's kind of terrifying. So if you're standing on top of an open top bus, yeah, I kind of understand where she's coming from with the please let me know if there's any power lines coming because I might get decapitated.
How many times have you been decapitated?
That we can talk about on the podcast? 0.
You'll tell me the real answer off air.
Correct. So the final ball stage is to bounce the ball from a bin lid onto a ping pong bat and then into a cup on a drone, and they do so, and the crane drops to 20 meters. Michelle's second question is what one of the tourist names are. She can match the name tag to tags on the luggage underneath, and they do get it correct, confirming these 7 tourists will be joining them for tonight's entertainment.
Do you think the luggage question was a little bit easier because they just lost 3 people from the first question?
I would assume so, yes.
Hmm.
Because, I mean, I have been on a fair few city sightseeing, hop on, hop off buses. It's basically the first thing that I do in a new city because it's the easiest way to get around.
Yeah.
And in fact, when I was on my own getting a cruise from Athens in 2022, I deliberately got a sightseeing ticket that included the hop on, hop off bus because I knew it would stop at the cruise terminal and I timed it perfectly so they dropped me off at the right time.
Oh, well done.
Oh, I'm absolutely mercenary with these sort of things. It was the Athens City Pass, and it included the hop on hop off bus.
Oh.
Not that company, but it was a different one. But one of the stops was Piraeus, where the cruise terminal is.
Oh.
So I very much took advantage of their hospitality and timed it correctly. You don't have name tag luggage on, hop off buses, usually. You
Right.
just take your own bag upstairs with you.
Yeah.
So I know that this challenge was slightly contrived, but yeah, I think that is where it's very difficult for them to sabotage because I'm assuming without knowing your suspicions, either Michelle or Sarah is your mole.
Yep.
Neither of them could really sabotage there.
Yeah. Like, I mean, yes, it is contrived, but also, so is dropping 10,000 ping pong balls into a bus in the middle of a parking lot. Like, I don't care that it's fake.
Oh no, I don't care that it's fake either, but I think in terms of the pretenses of this show, it's very difficult for a mole to plausibly go, "Oh no, I got that wrong,"
Yeah.
because if it is Michelle, assuming she knew what the correct name was gonna be, then it's probably fairly difficult for her to describe the wrong character
Yeah.
without umming and ahhing too much and losing a tourist anyway, and making it too obvious.
Yeah.
So for their second challenge, Nimrod and Lexi have to win a game of Pong against a computer, but with them physically controlling the bats in the warehouse. And if they win a best of 5 game, they lower the crane again.
It's so nice that Logan's not here, so we don't have to spend 5 minutes explaining what Pong is.
I know, he's just used to mist at this point, isn't he? And at the final bus stop, there's a group of 5 tourists that they could take, but they must take a photo of them first, where they have no other tourists behind them. And they got 5 minutes to take the photo.
That's an interesting way to get more people onto the bus.
It is. I feel like there probably should have been more challenges than that, though.
Yeah.
Especially if they're chucking money at them this episode, as they obviously are.
Yeah.
There should have probably been some more challenges at the stops, I think.
Yeah. Like, I think probably should have been, question, mini challenge, question, mini challenge, rather than question, big mini challenge.
Yeah. Unless there was another challenge and they just cut it because it had no effect whatsoever. Because if you spot, I think it's after the ping pong challenge finishes, Alexi says that they could have earned €9,000, but they only earned about a third of it. That doesn't add up. We only see €8,000 of people because it's 5,000
Yeah.
for the ping pong balls, 3,000 for the bus.
Yeah. That's
So I
odd.
really wouldn't be surprised if there was a mini challenge cut here
Hmm.
for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Because I've kind of only just made that connection when you were talking. I was going to point it out,
Hmm.
but yeah, I've kind of only made that connection when you were talking, like, oh yeah, maybe there was a mini challenge cut.
Yeah. Like, at least in this episode, there's other things going on. Like, it's not like an episode where, you've got a few really sort of mediocre challenges, like you get in some Vidim seasons, where
Yeah.
you can tell they're basically putting in everything they've got, and they're still having to add filler because the challenges are just too simple.
The other thing I do want to point out on the sightseeing bus is it's exactly the same sightseeing bus company that was used in Cape Town for the Hans Return Challenge.
I was wondering where I recognised the signage from.
Yeah. The reason I know that is because, again, I've taken that sightseeing bus and it actually goes all the way past Camps Bay, where the Drunk Museum heist started, and also where the world's cheapest Hard Rock Cafe is, because that's next door to the bar they went to for the Drunk Museum heist. Again, I accidentally stumbled upon it when we were in South Africa, and I'm like, oh, I recognise this place, and then we did Historians right after, and I'm like, holy shit, I've been there.
It looks like it's the same company that does the hop on hop off bus in Melbourne as well.
Yeah, they're everywhere, the red city sightseeing buses.
Yeah.
So when Sarah does take the picture, the best one that she has still has 2 tourists in, so they don't earn any extra tourists. The Pong game gets to 2-2, but Nimrod misses the last one, meaning the crane will stay where it is. The bus then arrives with a guaranteed €1,400 of 3,000 in tourists, and with Nimrod and Lexi in control of when the box will open. The bus will drive at a steady 15 kilometers an hour, and the balls drop with a very quiet Wilhelm scream, and it is slightly too early, but earns them €1,818, and Jill rounds it up to 1,820 of 5,000 for the challenge.
I just want to know which one of the balls was screaming.
That's the one that got stuck under the bus.
Ah.
I mean, I don't want to emphasize Pattaya's reputation, but one of the main sites mentioned on City Sightseeing Pattaya's website is Rubberland,
Oh.
which is dedicated to, you guessed it, rubber.
No way.
Apparently, Thailand's the world's top rubber producer.
Oh.
Bounce around in there for an hour or two before hopping back on the bus.
I mean, wouldn't you?
Bouncing is also something that Pattaya is famous for.
Mm.
So he then sends them off for an evening at the market and specifically says, don't do anything seedy. And they decide to try crocodile, cricket, scorpions, and millipedes. And Alexei says that they've earned basically more than they ever have, but it was still only about a third of the maximum for that challenge.
Crocodile does taste nice, though.
I mean, at this point, 11 and a half years into the podcast, I'm repeating stories, but I tried a lot of random meats when I was in South Africa. Didn't try crocodile, although it was on the menu. I tried ostrich, which is very tasty. At the safari place we went to, it was basically what you have for lunch is what we found on the reserve that day. So it was a lot of antelope. Yeah, they were all very, very tasty.
Yeah.
There are some places in the UK that sell crocodile. I think Iceland does.
Yeah. I know it's a stereotype that everything tastes like chicken, but crocodile genuinely tastes like chicken.
I mean, you have a lot of crocodiles in Australia, so
Yeah.
I'm not surprised you kill them occasionally.
Well, we got to, make some bags for all of our balls.
Maybe that's how they could have saved some of the ping pong balls. Just shove them in crocodiles. Cricket, scorpions, and millipedes is not something that I ever really have a desire to try, though.
Like I would try crickets, but maybe not scorpions or millipedes.
Yeah. So we then get a diary of a mole, which is the mole saying,
I'm happy with how today went. Okay, money was earned, but it could have been much, much more.
did you get your tool from the briefcase?
It was very exciting. Everyone was watching each other closely, but I don't think anyone noticed anything.
Did it come in handy?
I used it, but even without it, I don't think we would have won the full amount. They are sabotaging themselves.
And it is the morning of day 16, and Nimrod makes some scrambled eggs, competing with Alexei to make them the best. And Nimrod wins thanks to his double-decker toast.
Did he have to drop 10,000 balls into the top of his double-decker toast?
Yeah, maybe that was a clue. Maybe Nimrod was the mole after all. He got a fake red screen, and he's going to come back as a surprise fourth candidate next week.
I know we give this show a lot of credit for its music choices, but like the music in this sequence is just a bizarre choice. Like, because it's I assume Thai cover of Abani B, which is a song that won Eurovision in the 70s for Israel, I think. And like, I just could not work out why that particular song, because it's not really something that would stand out to Belgians. It's not really something that would stand out to Thai people. It's just a random song that happens to be a Thai cover of.
I mean, lest we forget, the start of this season had a Cantonese cover of an Irish song
Yeah.
in Thailand.
How odd.
Very, very odd.
Hmm.
So after breakfast, they head back to Pattaya for a different kind of show today at Batman House. It is a former mega nightclub which has been abandoned for 30 years. And Gilles greets them on the rooftop and tells them they will either win money or the last pass fragment of the trip. Only one person will be able to cash in their card in the pocket, which they randomly selected earlier in the day. The ace in their cards is worth 5,000 euros as stakes, but they can also pick a mystery card, two of which were jokers, and the other two being 500 euros. All four claim that they are playing for the ace, but not everyone is telling the truth. Gilles brings out a way to find out who is telling the truth. Each of them will grab a rod in their hand, going back to the ping pong show, and if they have money in their pockets, they will receive an electric shock. Those with Passfragen will feel nothing. Again, this fucking show. It's absolute filth.
But it's the best kind of filth.
You will win 10 Harmstone points if you can guess what kind of filth the banner is this week.
Do I want 10 Harmstone points? Is it someone basically pulling their hand away after getting shocked?
It is not. It is instead Nimrod trying to deep throat a ping pong ball.
That's my boy.
Because it was the funniest visual of the entire episode. And they all vote Sarah off, mainly because she's had so many personal advantages already. She did indeed go for a Yoker, and now gets to duel one of them for their spot in the game. It's basically Last One Laughing, but a few months before the UK version came out. So yeah, she decides to challenge Nimrod to a terrible joke duel where the person who laughs loses, and if nobody laughs, then she goes anyway.
Why on earth would you pick Nimrod for a don't laugh contest?
Especially when both Michelle and Alexei were pissing themselves afterwards.
Yeah.
It was so blatantly obvious that Nimrod was the wrong choice here for any sort of hilarity duel.
Yeah, like, firstly, Nimrod is not losing this challenge at all. Like, there's no universe in which he loses. But also, Nimrod was clearly going to take the 5,000 euros. Like, everyone agreed on that. So the only way this makes sense to me is if she's the mole and then she wants to get the 5,000 euro out of the challenge. But if they've got that offer at the end, then whoever's left at the end is just going to take Nimrod's card anyway. It just didn't make sense.
The mole cannot risk taking a 5,000 euro card and including one in the game.
Mm-hmm.
The mole has to take the mystery card regardless, because at worst it's going to be 500 euros.
Yeah.
Because I don't think they really care if someone gets 2 pass froggen as long as nobody gets 5,000 euros. But the problem is, Alexei and Nimrod steamroll this challenge and just basically come together and go, I know you've got 5,000, I know you've got 5,000. Let's just team up, make sure that the girls can't put any pass froggen into the game and take the 5,000 euros because we need it.
Yeah.
Because it's so irritating this entire episode that basically Michelle and Sarah end up in exactly the same place for the entire episode.
Yeah. I wonder if the mini tasks would have been better if they didn't have the jokes pre-written for them. As funny as What Hangs on the Wall and Host them All, Gilles de Poster was. Like, none of the
All
other jokes
of them
was...
were brilliant.
None of the
No,
other jokes...
I laughed at them all.
Oh. Well, you are easy to please.
Well, I laughed at most of them, I'll say. There was one or two where it's just like, yeah, that doesn't make me laugh. But Gilles de Poster really, really made me laugh.
Yeah, like, that was easily the funniest one.
It appeals to us perfectly. I mean, we are a podcast that 2 years ago, I think it was episode 7 as well, wasn't it? The speed challenge, which was just hilarious. Like, just full of terrible puns. I think it was episode 6, actually, because it was 5 people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just full of terrible puns. And, like, this is how you get us on board with the challenge, is just stick in terrible wordplay and puns. But, yeah, Gilles de Poster, absolutely A tier, whoever wrote that.
Yeah.
And finally, this season, we actually had a reference to Gilles being a celebrity as well.
Yeah.
Or being a notable person, if nothing else.
What did Nimrod use to make breakfast and host them all? Gilles de Toaster.
Oh, God, we're not starting these. Saunders isn't here to play with you, I'm sorry. Oh, God. So, unsurprisingly, because of the terrible Gilles pun, Nimrod wins, and Sarah is eliminated from the challenge. The remaining 3 will be putting their hands in boxes with creatures. If they've got a yoker, it will be empty, and if they got money, the boxes will contain cockroaches. And we find out that Michelle has the other yokers, and Nimrod and Alexei are both playing for 5,000 euros. And the boys then vote out Michelle, and she challenges Alexei to a duel, which is a much more sensible option. And this time they also get sound effects to use should they choose to. However, she does fail to make him laugh. I mean, obviously I'm majorly sold on Michelle here. I think Michelle's play here is way better than Sarah's, if she is Mol.
Yeah.
Because she challenges someone she knows has 5,000 euros, and more importantly, she challenges someone who she can definitely beat in a laughing duel.
Mm.
Alexei is the easy target here, if you're going to go for one of the guys with 5,000 euros.
I wonder if maybe Sarah didn't expect Alexei to take the money.
Well, I'm sort of assuming the mole was briefed. I can't imagine they'd go into a challenge like this with the mole not knowing who has what card.
Yeah.
Because if they did and Sarah still picks Nimrod, then that's a dumb choice for a mole. As someone who's no one's really going to beat in a laughing duel.
I mean, we're not saying Nimrod is totally humorless, but
he's the most humorless of the final 4.
Yeah.
Put it this way, I was more gutted that Nimrod went because I knew I wasn't now going to get to chat to him than anything. I think he would have been fascinating to talk to next week.
Nimrod makes an interesting straight man.
Yeah. And also, he was so blatantly a contestant this week that it would have been very nice if one of the girls had gone so I could be confident.
Joke's on you, bitch, you'll never be free.
Yeah. So the final duel is a laser game, and the winner gets an offer. They can either cash in their card or steal one of the other 3. And they have limited ammo and a blindfold, and must try to hit each other whilst wearing the blindfold. However, because it's 2 guys in their 20s, they're basically doing a parody of Fortnite here, and the laser circle they're playing in will shrink. If they step outside it, it alerts their opponent to where they are. And also, they take some sort of poison damage or whatever it is on Fortnite. I haven't played Fortnite for years.
No.
I'm a 32-year-old man.
Jesus, you're 32?
I am, now, officially.
Wow.
So Nimrod manages to shoot Alexei eventually and receives the offer. Alexei chose to take an ace, as did Nimrod, and Nimrod says it's time for money and reveals he did cash in the money card for €5,000 of 5,000 for the challenge, 8,220 of 13,000 for the episode, and 20,910 of 92,900 for the season so far.
It's pretty impressive that Nimrod won, considering he was basically constantly stepping out of bounds, and then Alexei just never did.
Yeah, Alexei was shooting a lot more recklessly than Nimrod was. Whereas Nimrod was very much taking his time trying to actually listen to where Alexei was and, destroy him.
Yeah.
So it's now time for the test. 20 questions about the identity and actions of the mole. Whoever knows least goes home except for the mole who can never go home. Whoever makes it through this test will be in the finale and get the executive privilege of speaking to me and Saunders on Sunday evening.
Yeah. I'm sorry to all three of them.
So am I, because I know full well that Logan is going to be fairly giddy, because he always is. I was giddy last year. I think he's going to be giddy this year. I've just got a gut feeling about it.
I should do the I will destroy you moment as a daily Hilda.
Yeah, you should, because you still have like 7 to come up with anyway.
Yeah. We haven't talked about that yet this week, have we?
We haven't, no. Your little project, your little art project.
Yeah. I love how I could be doing these as proper face swaps. I just can't be bothered.
Oh yeah, all due respect, they are fairly ropey face swaps.
Yeah.
So Nimrod says it might have been dumb going for the pot, but it was time to play for the group. He doesn't know whether Alexei would have made the same choice though. Sarah was surprised by Nimrod, he played it well, they were super happy as a group. Michelle chose Pass Frog, even though she said she would never take a personal advantage. Alexei says if he were the mole, he'd want a yoker and want to get to the end to keep money out. Michelle says the mole would want to take an ace, so you don't have to lie, but can just change the card at the end. Gilles says Pattaya was successful and inspired them to do great things. They finally made it tough for the mole. Now they've gone to Pattaya. Nimrod is the first name to be typed in, and it's an instant red.
It's not often we get an instant red at Final Four, because usually they want to try and push it down to 50-50 for the dramatic climax sort of thing.
Yeah, I think if Nimrod had taken the Pass Fragen, I think it would have gone down to a 50-50.
Yeah.
Because they more like to hinge it on the did you save yourself with Pass Fragen, or are you still going home like they did with Pedro last week? Because that's why we saw Alexei and Michelle first, and then it was like, oh, well, the Pass Fragen didn't save someone then, did they? And then we get the Pedro red moment. He says he had a feeling, it's a shame, but he knew. He's really grateful for his experience. It was the craziest experience of his life. Alexei says he's been one of the strongest people all season long. It stings a bit that he gave them €5,000, but he stands by his choice. Michelle says that he couldn't get over the fact that they had the lowest pots. And Gilles says the train was his highlight when Nimrod was just peddling his little heart out. He gets a hug despite Nimrod not being a big fan of them.
I love that Nimrod was like, okay, fine, let's get it over with.
You know full well that I would have told Saunders if Nimrod had got to the final 3 that Nimrod was a massive hugger and that was his greeting, and just taken a picture of the awkwardness. So next time there's parasailing, volleyball, the mole openly challenges them, and it's time for a hunt and an explosion before one of them is unmasked as the mole. Shall we eulogize Nimrod?
Sure. I mean, I know he's maybe not the most dynamic person they've ever cast on this show, but he's brought such a good energy to this season that I can't imagine this season without him.
Yeah, given that basically everyone else in this cast is insane, Nimrod was always going to pale in comparison in terms of personality just because he isn't the dynamic personality of someone like Hilda. However, him being the straight man to Hilda in that car is an all-time reality TV moment because it was just utterly delightful.
Yeah. That moment doesn't work if you've got Michelle in there instead of Nimrod.
No, absolutely not.
Or even Alexei or Jan.
Yeah. I think Hilda and Nimrod had a very close bond that she could get away with that with him.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't think she would have got away with it with everyone else necessarily.
No.
And I also love how we're talking about Nimrod, and it's invariably gone back to Hilda because she is our favourite topic.
She is. Every day is a daily Hilda.
Yes, it is. I don't think this season would have been as good without Nimrod. And I know we're going to get
No.
into this in a couple of weeks. Like, I've really enjoyed this season. I think it's still been a very, very fun season. Is it as thematically strong as the past few? Maybe not. But it still definitely works as a television product.
Yeah, like maybe it's not as strong as the last few, but like there's some challenges this season I think you could only do in Thailand. Like I like the ping pong ball thing. Even if it didn't have the sex tourism sort of undertones, I don't think they would have been able to do that challenge in Mexico and dump 10,000 avocados on people. Like I don't think that would work.
No, if they got an open top bus full of tourists and dumped 10,000 avocados on them, I think there would have been lawsuits.
Yeah.
You would have had Lloyd and Baha running around going, just mind your heads, mind the baby, just avoid everything. This is gonna hurt.
The scary thing is we didn't even get the question wrong, so they're lucky it's not stones.
Yeah, Nimrod, I think, made this season work by just being sort of the center point of normality.
Yeah, it's like I know Gilles has said, for years that they basically just cast people they want to spend time with.
Yeah.
Like you can't have an entire cast of like the crazy people, like the Phoebes and the Rosses. You do need a Matthew Perry sort of type.
Yeah. And this isn't us saying, Jill, because I know you listen to this podcast, that we don't want to see more people like Hilda. Please cast more people like Hilda. She's insane.
Yes.
And she's delightful. And she's everything we want in a contestant and more. I mean, I have literally, right before we started recording this, watched the 2 most recent episodes of Covert Quartrators, which somehow is more insane than the Canadian one that was on last year.
Oh.
You absolutely need to watch it. I'm not going to spoil what happened, but you know how I told you about the murder in plain sight a few weeks ago? There's another wrinkle.
Oh.
It doesn't necessarily work how they thought it was going to, shall we say?
Ah, cool.
And it's beautifully told. It's told in a Genius game like flashback, but with people actually watching it.
Yeah.
I had to get one Genius joke in there. Sorry, people who work on Genius who listen to this podcast. I love you, really.
Like you can tell there's a lot of people, who put a lot of work into it. It's just I don't get why A, it's on ITV, and B, it's against Race Across the World.
Yeah, and also people are still very much taking their copium and going, oh, yeah, it was up against Taskmaster and it held its own. But it's like, yeah, Taskmaster triples its ratings on catch-up.
Yeah.
The fact it didn't beat Taskmaster on overnights is not a good sign. The fact it dropped like a third of its audience overnight is not a good sign. And in fact, someone on the Genius subreddit did have a go at me for pointing that out. It's like, oh yeah, it was up against Taskmaster. And I'm like, yeah, it was, but it probably should have beaten Taskmaster overnight, and it didn't. So, on the pool, the bit that you've been waiting for me to say, you do lose your final team member, eliminating you from the pool at the last hurdle, or doing a Michelle Pierce-Donovan as we more commonly know it. Logan goes into the finale in a strong position with Sarah and Alexi left, and I've got Michelle. And more importantly, this does block Fuzzy's corner.
Yeah. I was having a look at like the season-long bingo board she did at the start of the season. I think there's only one row left where she can get a win.
Oh, good.
Well, she can't get either of the diagonals anymore because she's lost both of the bottom corners. And then I think she basically ended up with a line of wrong answers basically straight across the middle that's ruled out pretty much all of the vertical rows. So the only 2 ways she can get a bingo now, if next week there's a challenge based around superstition and the mole is a woman, or like Sarah isn't the mole, Michelle somehow earns an advantage in the final episode, and we get Pedro getting a tattoo at the reunion. Like, I don't think either of those 2 options is particularly likely.
No, and just like me at a finale, she did go 0 for 5 until she got her bingo last week. On First Suspicions, as I mentioned last week, no one had Nimrod in first, meaning we are now guaranteed someone to win First Suspicions with a First Suspicion. While 6 people, Febra, Femke, Urine, Walter, Fuzzy, and Logan fucking Cylinders all had Nimrod in 9th. Sandra has stormed back ahead with a score of 8, while Alice is still in last with 24. And out of interest, Bindles and I are currently on a score of 18, and Logan is the only other person with a single-digit score on 9. Saunders can, unfortunately, do a perfect finish if Michelle is the mole and Sarah is the winner, I believe. I'm not sure if anyone else can do a perfect finish, but Saunders, unfortunately, still can.
That's so rude of him.
I know. And you can do the final week of the Bothers Bar Suspect List at suspectlist.rtvwarriors.com or the link in our bio. And as I told you last week, what the bonus question was going to be, it is, just like Vidum, who is the winner? And if you've not used your Yoker yet to double your score, you have to do it this week. Use it or lose it.
Have you used your joke yet?
I did. I used it last week because I'm a wuss and didn't want to rely on Nimrod making it to the final 3 so that I could make him the winner. And I'm glad I did. I was umming and ahhing about whether to use it last week because I did guess that the mole didn't earn any pass Ragan in the final challenge. And that basically left me with Michelle or Alexi. And I'm like, well, it isn't Alexi. So I've got a 1 in 3 chance of being right. And then I realised that I have a 1 in 3 chance of being right this week. So I might as well just back myself and do it on the one that is a Michelle answer rather than relying on me guessing who the winner's going to be correctly.
Yeah.
Have you used yours?
Yeah, I used mine last week, I think. I've been putting it off because I have been getting Mikhail Mons by just about every single person who's gone home.
I know.
Point. Like, because I was on Else for a while, and then I thought I saw something that related to Hilda, and then I was on Pedro for a bit, and now I swear to God, if it's not Sarah.
Saunders, out of interest, used his last week.
Oh.
Because as an admin of the suspect list, I can see when people use their bonuses, but obviously I can't see what anyone else's responses are. Mainly because Thomas won't let me, because he's a meanie pants.
Yeah, good work, Thomas.
Flanders' suspicions last week were Michelle on 40%, Sarah on 13, Nimrod on 18, and Alexi on 12. And the final 2 questions: who do we suspect, and who is going to win?
I think I'm going to try saving face and say Sarah's the mole, and then Michelle, then Alexi, because either like Sarah is the mole, and I basically discounted her for half the season because I thought she wouldn't have been able to put that floor sign up with a hand bandage or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Or it's Michelle, and I had her second in week 1 anyway. So like either of those 2 options, I'm okay with. If it's Alexi, I think they've sort of, well, it's probably not Alexi. Let's be honest. But I think, if it is Alexi, I think the thing they try and do where they try and make the puzzle a little bit solvable, I don't know if that's worked quite so well if it's Alexi, because I feel like I haven't seen anybody beyond him.
Yeah.
And whether that's because he's a good mole who's managed to do a whole bunch of stuff that's evaded detection, or whether they're kind of giving him like the early boot edit and he just happens to still be here. I don't know, but I can't see it being Alexi. But if it is Sarah, then the way the test confessionals were worded this week does make me think Alexi is the winner. Because I think they were sort of hinting that Michelle was on Alexi, which is baffling if this is, the final 3. And we know that Pedro went home last week because he was so far off anything.
I feel like if it is Sarah, I'm going to have a bit of a harder time reconciling some of her choices of positions in challenges. Because there have been 2 or 3 this season where the mole absolutely wouldn't want to be. The mole would not want to be on the waxing chairs, for example, because you have 0 control over half of the challenge. And also on top of that, in the other side of that challenge, Michelle sabotaged a lot if she's the mole. She couldn't shoot any arrows, she was constantly giving wrong answers, and fundamentally, she didn't put the ball at the end, and we saw that. And if they're sticking to the same attitude that they always do of, we want people to be able to find the mole, I feel like it is a safer bet to go Michelle, because we've seen a lot more of her not being a contestant than we have of Sarah. And stuff like, as you said at the start of the season, would Sarah have really put herself in the boxing ring if she was the mole for the risk of injury, especially on a show like this where they do occasionally have a bit of a Charlie Brown season? I'm not sure, especially knowing that the floor sign sabotage was going to be coming up, I feel like the only way she would have been able to do it is if she snuck to that hotel the day before and stuck it up herself before doing the boxing challenge, which wasn't going to happen. So I feel like it is a safer bet, as much as I really don't want to be blinded, as I always am on Belgian Mole finales when I attend it. I think it's a safer bet for me to say Michelle, Sarah, Alexi than to say Sarah.
Yeah.
And I think Sarah's probably the winner. Because I don't know how much faith you can put in the Who Suspects Who confessionals as well.
Yeah.
They're usually fairly misleading. And I feel like if we don't see any blatant suspicions from Sarah and Alexi, I feel like they're both on the same person and they're both on Michelle. And I would be baffled if Alexi does end up being the winner because, as you said, he's had no edit whatsoever. Although, thinking back to the being charged by Buffalo scene, we saw Alexi. Alexi was there and said what he'd do with the money. I think Sarah did as well, didn't she? I think it was those two and else.
I think so. I'd have to double check.
Because didn't Sarah say that she'd buy a yacht? And I took the piss out of.
Someone
I took
did.
the piss out of her saying, "What do you think the budget of the show is?"
And then we immediately had someone say they wanted to go to space.
Yeah, I think Elle said she wanted to go to space. Yeah, Alexi said he wanted to go to Thailand and he'd achieved his dream regardless of the money. Sarah said she wanted to go and she wanted to buy a yacht, and Elle said she wanted to go to space, I think. And I think it's very interesting if Michelle is the mole that we see what both the winner and the loser would have done with the money potentially. But my gut instinct, knowing that I'm invariably wrong because I'm always wrong when I go to a finale, and I can't shake the fact that I really wanted Michelle or Sarah to go this week so I could be confident, I think I'm saying Michelle mole, Sarah winner, Alexa loser.
Yeah. I will say, as good as this season has been, I think we kind of have a less interesting final three than most seasons.
Yeah, because if you think who the previous three who've gone home are, it's Pedro, Hilda, and Nimrod.
Yeah.
Imagine that final three.
Like, even, people like Els and Risiana. Like, I think there's been a lot of, really fun characters this season. But with Alexi sort of not really getting much of an edit. And even, Michelle basically being hidden for half the season as well. Maybe a little bit less so Sarah, because she, had stuff early on and then sort of faded away for a couple of weeks and then came back. But I kind of don't get why this final three sort of has been edited the way they have been.
Yeah. I think for me as well, I can't shake the reason that I suspected Michelle as my real first suspicion in week one before you corrupted me with else.
You're welcome, everybody.
Is in the trailer, we saw that scene from the boat where she dumps the noodles all over else. And I can't shake the feeling that in a season of misfortune, they would be blatant enough to go in the reunion. Oh, by the way, yeah, we literally showed you the mole sabotaging in episode 1, but in the pre-season trailer. Like, why didn't you realize this? I cannot shake the feeling that that is the sort of dumb shit that they would do to try and fool us. Because they want us to find who the mole is.
Yeah. Having said that, this is also the sort of show that if they were going to do that, they would have taken the opportunity to make a banker named Nimrod the mole.
Yeah, true. Knowing this show as we do, and being a complete failure at guessing on this show as I am, and to be fair, as you are, you are very much tarred with the same brush after last season.
Yep.
I can't help but feel like they want us to find who the mole is, and they've shown so much of Michelle potentially sabotaging, regardless of the briefcase, because I'm ignoring the briefcase, it's smoke and mirrors. Regardless of the briefcase, they've shown us so much of Michelle sabotaging that I just cannot shake the feeling that it's probably her.
Yeah.
And Saunders' suspicions, of course, other than Nadja, because he's always suspicious of Nadja, is Halle Berry.
Damn it, Nadia.
And has Saunders sent me any voice notes that he promised he would? Has he? Heck. So if he sends it by the time that this episode gets edited, I will include it. But if not, then you'll just get a few seconds of blank air right now. No, he didn't. Obviously. Anything else you want to say about this episode?
It was a fun one.
It was. It was probably the most fun episode of the season, I think.
Yeah, like I think maybe Hilda in the taxi is still the best moment, but
Hmm.
I think this is really the only episode of the season where every challenge has been a banger.
Yeah, I agree.
Like we've had some that didn't quite work, like the radio quiz, like the durian hike, but this episode, the tourist thing worked, the ping pong thing worked, the cards worked, even though maybe not as well as they were hoping. It was a very strong episode, and it like feels like we're ending on a high.
The thing that we've discussed previously, and I'm thinking of here, is the concept that as long as you start strong and end strong, it doesn't really matter what's in the middle. This
Yeah.
season started strong with that opening episode because it was a fantastic premiere. It's ending strong with these past couple of episodes. I'm not
Yeah.
sure the middle of the season really matters as much.
No.
The final bit of admin that I do need to mention, as is traditional on the pre-finale episode, is of course Saunders and I will be at the finale on Sunday. Keep an eye on our social media for various updates. We will inevitably do videos. It's meant to be fairly warm in Antwerp, so you'll probably get to see my shirt earlier than you normally would have. Obviously, if you have any questions for the final three or for Pepper Bear's Yilda Costa, please send them in on social media. It saves me and Saunders having to do any sort of ad-libbing, because you know how awkward the ad-libbing ends up being.
Yes, I do. I have to listen to you every week.
Yeah. Please, please, please send in questions so
Yeah.
that it's not nearly as awkward as normal for me.
What is yours' favourite Belgian radio jingle? And can he sing it?
Well, I got him to say Happy Groundhog Day to Daniel Pete last week, so he probably would be up for it, let's be honest. And he is also a new father, so he's probably going to be sleep deprived. So, I reckon Jill's going to be fairly amenable to some of our bullshit this year.
Yeah.
And assuming that all goes well, Diary of a Mole Finale 4 is going to be out on Tuesday, I believe.
Ooh.
All depends on my flights, because my flights are much later than normal this year. I'm not doing an early morning return. I'm doing an evening return, which means that hopefully I'll have a bit of editing time before I get on my flight, but I might be a little bit knackered.
Yeah.
We'll see. I'm aiming for Tuesday anyway. So, thank you for listening to our Mol België Season 13 recap. We'll be back on Tuesday for Diary of a Mole Finale 4, and next Thursday for the recap proper, as we conclude the hunt for the newest mole in Thailand. Don't forget, you can contact us on pretty much every social media platform that isn't TikTok, where we are RTV Warriors, or you can email us and contact at rtvwarriors.com. You can also support us on Patreon at patreon.com/rtvwarriors. More news on what you'll be getting on Patreon in a couple of weeks. Thank you, as always, to the Legion of Subtitlers. We'll see you next week.
Enjoy Belgium, arsehole.
Oh, I will.
When I saw the ping pong challenge, it made me think of a very different ping pong video. What I saw in this episode of the Mol België is not what I anticipated. As soon as I saw Nimrod go for the $5,000, that's when I ruled him out as a mole suspect. So, of course, he has to be executed this episode. And Michelle was very, very suspicious with the messing up the Buddhist calendar year with the way she was deflecting it as if it was Sarah's fault. But yet it was Michelle who was in the position to give the incorrect year number. And her answer wasn't even really all that close. And I don't think there were as many distractions as she claimed there was. Also, did you all notice the Wilhelm scream this episode? That has to be a hidden clue, because it's been in every single episode. There has to be a theme as to when it's being involved. And by the end of the episode, I completely forgot about the whole twist involving the mole's briefcase until the Diary of a Mole at the end of the episode. I still have mixed feelings about the whole mole's briefcase twist, because when I think back on what we've seen for pretty much the whole season now, the mole's briefcase twist is not really what stands out about the season. And that's not necessarily to say it's a bad twist. It just isn't the central theme as you would think for what was supposed to be the whole centerpiece to the whole season. Oh, and my suspect list is as follows: Michelle number 1, Sarah number 2, Alexei number 3, Nimrod was 4th, but of course that's irrelevant now. And I project the mole is Michelle, Alexei will be the winner, and Sarah is the loser. And if one of the two women is the mole, then whoever is left over is one of the very, very few women one of the few female mole candidates to make the finale in quite a long time. I think since the Germany season. Does that sound right?